What does a pharmacist do? Well, most people might answer that a pharmacist dispenses the medications that my doctor prescribes. Now, I work with a ton of great pharmacists, and one thing that I don't generally see is excitement about pills in a vial. And this is probably because pharmacists have been trained to do so much more. So what can you get excited about in your community? To find out, let's go beyond the scripts. Hey everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Scripts. I'm your host, Will Tuft from Pioneer RX, and joining us today from the helm of Lincoln Pharmacy in Albany, New York, we have Zarina Jalal joining us. Thank you so much for making some time to come on to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about Lincoln Pharmacy. You guys have been open in Albany, New York, serving your community since 1935. That's a stretch.
Yeah, that's right. The pharmacy was opened in 1935. My dad actually bought the pharmacy the year I was born, which is 1988. And so we've been here in our corner of Albany. I think about almost 90 years. I think it'll be 90 years next year. And my family's owned it for the last 35 to 37 years of it.
Wow. Yeah, that's a long-standing relationship with the community. Was that another family member or just like an outside entity that you guys joined that pharmacy from?
It was another local family that owned the pharmacy before us, and the family wanted to keep the pharmacy independently owned. So they got other offers from chains and stuff, but ultimately they sold to my dad because they knew that he would be dedicated to the community.
Nice. I love to hear that. You know, every time we see, one of those closures, you always hope that it can go that way, but it's, just not always, doesn't always work out that way. So when it does, it's really great because I feel like an independent pharmacy in the community is doing a whole lot more than just filling those prescriptions.
Absolutely. And perhaps it's my role with CPESN, but I always feel like independent pharmacies are at the forefront of innovation when it comes to community pharmacy. And so definitely our communities need independent pharmacies.
Yeah. So a pharmacy that's been open since 1935, I feel like has gone through quite a few changes. And even in the time that you've spent in the pharmacy. So like when your family came on board, you said, 88?
Mm-hmm.
Were you guys currently taking advantage of some pharmacy technology?
Yeah. So my dad, they did have a computer system at the time. I think my dad said that he switched softwares shortly after he bought the pharmacy. I think they were with actually another red sales system in the beginning, 2S1. And then let me see. Actually, I remember I was 11 years old and we had just gotten dial-up, or not dial-up. We had switched from dial-up internet to broadband at home. And I remember coming in and I would hear like the modem going on in the pharmacy. And I was like, I can't believe you guys are still using dial-up in here. And I called the cable company myself. I was 11 at the time because my dad was so busy back here and I signed the pharmacy up for broadband internet.
Nice. Get with the times, Dad. Yeah, I love that. It's funny. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and that sound of dial-up that is like hits deep inside for me. I think our generation just has a relationship with that sound that my daughter could hear that and have no idea what that sound is.
Yeah, I remember. During COVID, about 4 or 5 years ago, we did a complete internal renovation of the pharmacy. And at the time, we were just going through and we redid the drop ceilings, everything in here. And there was like telephone wires and like my contractor was like, should we save these? And I was like, why?
Yeah.
And the things that came out of that drop ceiling, like those gigantic plug, like for the printers, I can't even remember what they're called. But you know what I'm talking about. They're like this wide.
The big like serial cables.
Yeah, serial. That's what they were called. all of that stuff we were pulling out of the ceiling. It was kind of amazing to see what was up there. A lot of antiquated technology, or like the remnants of antiquated technology.
Yeah, no kidding. A 1935 building, you kind of have first gen of everything, probably first generation electricity in there. So yeah, pretty wild. So that's my next question, I guess. Is you're in the original building? That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, so this is definitely an old building. And there's a picture around here somewhere of the pharmacy. Within the first decade, it was open. And there's like trolley cars going out in front of it. It's pretty cool. And so yeah, the pharmacy building itself has been here a really long time. It was actually before it was a pharmacy. The the former owner's son still comes in here from time to time, and he had told me that it used to be a grocery store. And so like, and then it turned into a pharmacy. But yeah, like you can definitely, there are parts of the building that you go, I think there's like this giant steel pit in the basement. I have no idea what it was used for. There's like a door to the outside, like from the cellar that's been paved over by like concrete, because now, there's a sidewalk there. Um, so like all sorts of crazy things. We had a flood last year, the year before, in a basement. And, as we were going through, sorting through this stuff, I found stuff from like, I don't know, the 70s and 80s, things that are like, I've seen so many things just that I never would have imagined would be back here. It's like a museum of its own.
Yeah, for sure. So there's probably like a metaphor in there somewhere about the historic building and the changes over time, and the transfer through generations. Maybe in post we'll figure out an eloquent way to point that out. But so coming in as a second generation pharmacist there, I feel like that's kind of even more builds on that mystique of that traditional pharmacy. So is it still a family run pharmacy? Is there a lot of family there, or how does
So it's me and
that
my dad
staffing play
mostly
out?
that are family. But we have employees that stay on for a long time, so they're practically family. And so, and this is a community pharmacy. We have people in here that we serve that are like the third and fourth generation of people who've been using Lincoln Pharmacy. So, all of that is like, we're a family run pharmacy in a small city. So, it's all family.
Yeah, so anybody who's outside of New York, like I'm all the way down here in Texas, so pretty much all of New York is Times Square, right? That's what we see from Texas. But Albany is definitely not, right? Small community. What does that town kind of look like population wise? Do you have a lot of big box pharmacies there in that location?
Yeah, so I asked me that question 8 years ago, and I would have bet the independents in the city would have been outnumbered. Today we're 1 to 1. There's one independent to every chain pharmacy in the city. Actually, it might even be more independents to chains. But we do have, uh, the city proper is, honestly, maybe 200,000, 250. I don't exactly know. That's maybe something for Wikipedia. But there's, I want to say, 7 pharmacies I can think of off the top of my head, that are like walk-in, open door community pharmacies. 3 of them chains. The other 3 are independents, and then there's a couple of like pharmacies that are inside clinics. One of them is actually owned by one of the pharmacies that's inside a clinic in this area is owned by the College of Pharmacy that is specific to Albany, the Albany College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. So it's cool. We get a lot of students. They use the same software system as us. So we get a lot of students that rotate through here that have also spent time over at College Parkside, which is the college run pharmacy. And they like that's a nice tie-in with being able to serve the community and also train the next generation of pharmacists.
Yeah, for sure. It's always nice to have that fresh set of eyes coming into a lot of the pharmacies that I talk to that do precepting. Often talk about how much just from a different point of view they gain from having that.
Yeah, it's always it's nice to be able to help someone because I think students these days they get so much from or they see so much from often they're working in a chain environment and so they've never had the opportunity to work behind the counter in an independent environment and a lot of them are always like completely taken aback by the amount of attention to patients that we give, the other services that are going on here, and then also just how much we manage to get done. Like
Yeah.
I think people are like expecting, or maybe not people, but students are expecting independence, like because they see the chains and they're advertising and everything all over the place. Maybe they don't realize how busy a lot of independents are, and so when they come back here and they're working, they're like, wow, I never imagined that it would be this busy here. Or, wow, you guys do so many things. I had one student that actually worked for a psych hospital up in the North Country. And he came here and he's like, wow, you guys do more psych meds than my psych hospital in rural New York. So like those are the kinds of reactions I get from students.
Yeah, I bet. So, like last year, for some reason, I had to go get a prescription filled at a big box because it was like after hours emergency thing from like a quick care for my daughter, and that was the first time I'd gone into a big box store and just kind of watched workflow in a long time. And it's not that they're not working hard, but they are just working differently. The pharmacist was running around like crazy, just, understaffed, trying to just push those prescriptions out the door inefficiently. And yeah, I think an independent pharmacy is going to be doing things a lot differently when you're focusing on some of those enhanced services and patient care like you guys offer. So you do offer MedSync, adherence packaging. Tell me a little bit about what it's like being a patient at your pharmacy.
Well, um, we utilize a lot of the technology that Pioneer has to offer, the text messaging, RX Local. You're right, we do offer med synchronization, and so we often are using that text message feature, sending out the links to patients where they can check off what they want, and it's convenient. A lot of patients seem to like that. The packaging we offer is we have the strip compliance packaging, and that is something that we offer to a handful of patients. Not everyone's a good candidate. I've been doing strip compliance packaging for about 12 years now, so
Oh, wow.
I can pretty much like when sometimes providers come to us and they're like, we want you to package this patient, and it's because they have really no idea how to handle them. It's like their last resort. Like everything I've tried isn't working, and maybe if you make it pretty for them, they'll want to take their pills.
Yeah, just do
and,
something,
like,
please.
yeah, and it's I can pretty much determine based off of like a one or two conversations with, well, just one actually, one conversation with a patient, whether or not the packaging is going to work for them. I mean, because it all boils down to whether or not they want to take their meds. And if they don't want to, it doesn't matter how pretty I make it look. It's just, they're not going to take their meds. So, like I often have, like when we get referrals, I've pushed back and said, no, I'm sorry. Like this person isn't a candidate for a program. And I'm very judicious in who I pick because the packaging does take a tremendous amount of time and energy and effort in my pharmacy. And I don't want to waste it on someone who's not willing to embrace it and make the best of like the help that we're trying to give them.
Yeah, interesting. So, working in a pharmacy with your parents must kind of, I'm thinking about my daughter or you signing up for the broadband, but it sounds like your dad was pretty early to adapt to technology if he went through a software change? Because you guys have some automation, you guys have like an icon, you guys are, pretty forward thinking in the realm of technology. Is there ever any pushback generationally in the walls of the pharmacy?
So my dad, he is a very forward thinking, like he's a very like anytime there's technology that's going to make our workflow faster, he's all for it, ready to sign up. It's interesting though, because in 2017, he like semi-retired and he took a step back. He moved back to India to take care of his parents who are aging. And I kind of stepped into to the role of like supervising pharmacist and pharmacy manager. And when he came back, I want to say it was just before COVID, like 2020, February 2020, thereabouts. Um, the store had completely changed, and not from this perspective of workflow and technology, but from the perspective of like the market. I'm throwing terms at him like GER and BER, and he's like, "What? Speak English." And so I think that's like something that as he's come back into the pharmacy, he's just not been able to get a handle on. He understands that the contracting is complicated, but he's also like halfway out the door with his retirement, and so he's like those those terms and like those concepts are just things that he doesn't want to dedicate time to because it's just so complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like he has to look at the reimbursement screen and say, well, this can't be right.
Yeah, oh, well, I think we all do that. It's not just him. You're right. Like we all do. Like I remember looking at I filled a $7,000 medication the other day on Medicaid, and our reimbursement was the cost plus our dispensing fee of $10.18. And I was like, well, at least we're not losing money. And I was like, but then the other half of me was like, what is this that we're doing? Like, where there's not even like a 3% markup on our prescriptions. Like I'm taking so much risk with a $7,000 medication, but that's our industry.
Yeah, I feel like, a very low risk, industry, like any industry, would probably not be okay with a $3 reimbursement on, or $3 profit on a $7,000 investment.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I talk to every pharmacy about, it seems, is that same struggle with consistently low reimbursements, and yet independent pharmacies are finding ways to remain solvent and stay in business, and nobody has a single answer like, oh, well, this is the answer. It seems like most pharmacies are finding success through, 100 tiny wins every day and just attacking from all fronts. So, I mean, can you think of some areas where you've been able to identify that success that maybe, you didn't have to go out and find 10 years ago, but you're finding that today?
Yeah, actually, so as you know, I'm a board member of CPESN New York, and so I participate in a lot of the discussions around network activities in New York State. And one thing that I've learned a lot about in the past 4 or 5 years is the number of grant opportunities there are available for pharmacies. And when you're part of a network like CPESN, the network kind of brings those opportunities for you or to you. But those opportunities independently exist in every community. And they're like, it isn't easy, but with enough experience and also reaching out to the leadership in your local networks and getting advice from them, there is the ability to get funding for programs and services that are unique and innovative. So I'll give you an example. We all maybe we aren't in New York State. and I think it might be a national thing. There's something called the Opioid Settlement Fund, right, where the money from all of those opioid manufacturers and the wholesalers they went after, it kind of trickled back down to the states, and the states are trickling them into, at least in New York, the money from the opioid settlement is going to individual counties. And our counties all put out RFPs for innovative ideas on how to use the opioid settlement funding. So CPESN as a network in Albany County put together a proposal for naloxone distribution, and not just the distribution, but the education around naloxone, how to use it properly, what to do, et cetera. And I think the program launches early next year, so I'll have more details about it later. But that's something that we were able to go after as a network. But as I was working on that project one day late at night, right before it was due, an idea came to me, because we do a lot of long-acting injectables at Lincoln. And I was like, well, what if I put in a proposal for administering the substance abuse injections? I'm not getting paid for the administration, so that's what's holding me back. And so I just I had the framework because I'd written this other proposal just in the same time frame, and I just kind of threw my ideas into the same kind of format, and I was like, let me just submit this, let's see what happens. And sure enough, that project was also funded.
Nice.
So now I have a grant program running for that. Our county has also been generous in their funding for our diabetes prevention program. And right now, Albany County has opportunities available for smoking cessation programs and women's health programs. I kind of feel a little overextended, so I haven't put in applications for those. But it just goes to show that at every level of even at the very local level, there is opportunity for pharmacies to go after funding for services. And if it's too overwhelming to write those proposals on your own, then tie up with your network. Sometimes people have a criticism about CPESN that there's never pair programs in their area. But I always tell people that that it's as much effort as you put in, because innovation is never easy. Changing your workflow to be able to provide these services is not going to be an easy task. But that's what the network is for, is to help you with those changes. And then you also have to remember that the network is independently run, and with basically volunteers are staff that isn't fully reimbursed for their time. And so they can't be everywhere at once. If there's something in Albany County that you only know because you follow Albany County on Instagram, then go after those opportunities and ask for the help to get that opportunity for yourself and for other members.
Yeah, well, that's really the key with CPESN. So that teamwork of high performing pharmacies working together, and so, I think that probably factors in too when you're talking to those decision makers, and when there are grants available, to be able to say that you are working within a group of high performing pharmacies, and it's more than just you. I think that makes your voice a little bit louder.
It does. Having the strength of the network behind you when you're submitting a proposal definitely does make it stronger.
Yeah, not to mention just drawing on that experience from other team members when generating a proposal. So if anybody is sitting at home right now listening and they say, "Oh, I should contact my county," who do you reach out to? How do you get the FaceTime or the right email, to have that effective contact? Because I feel like there's a little bit of a barrier of entry there, just navigating to the right person. Is there a title they should look for? Is there a specific division of their?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. The procurement department for your county or your state, that's where you should be reaching out to. Government contracts typically go through like a bidding process. So they'll put out what's called a request for proposals or an RFP. And then you have to, like when those RFPs go live, you have to submit a proposal, including incorporating all of the points of the RFP. And then they'll look at all of the bidders and they'll either pick one or however like the RFP is set up in order to be able to fund those opportunities.
Nice. So, yeah, I think that a lot of pharmacy owners probably consider those grant opportunities when they're opening a new pharmacy. Grant opportunities for a new business or a small business maybe, but once they're up and running, probably a way underutilized resource.
Yeah, and especially like because a lot of times I think people are turned off because the grants. There's like different flavors of grants. Some of them are like for nonprofits only. Some of them, as long as like the services for the greater good of the community will allow you to do allow you as a for-profit organization participate in the grant work. Like one thing that I've learned over the years is like every community has what's called small business development organizations or agencies. And a lot of those function as nonprofits that allow you, like that can be basically a fiduciary if you're trying to go after grant funding. So if you wanted to apply for something, form a connection with your small business development agency, they might be able to put you in touch with a nonprofit that aligns with the goals of the clinical programs you're trying to bring in, or they can put you in touch, or they can maybe even perform that service themselves, and then bring those opportunities to your store.
Yeah, not to mention, even outside of grants, that seems like a great pool of people who are aware of needs of the community, and I imagine they're happy to connect those solutions to a need when they see the opportunity.
Yeah.
So within CPESN, you found some opportunities there. Did you find help with the grant writing? Have you found new opportunities through CPESN exclusively? Tell me a little bit more about how CPESN has helped, and you've been able to help CPESN.
Yeah, well, right out of the gate, I think our network was formed very early on, like 2016, 2017. And right out of the gate, we were able to take advantage of the Medicaid reform in New York State. It was something called the district program. And we got a grant for behavioral health services and like adherence in that population. And we were able to honestly, like that was really like the pinnacle or not the pinnacle, but like, what is it? Like the thing that really made us all realize, wow, like there is a lot of opportunity here and people are ready to partner with with organizations like ours and help us, achieve the outcomes that we want. So that was a great opportunity, like adherence packaging and adherence just support for patients that are on behavioral health meds. We've also over the years had opportunities for diabetes, and like I guess more specifically diabetes related education. So the DSMES or the diabetes self management education, I think is what it's called. And then the DPP, the diabetes prevention program, have all had funding opportunities through our network. I know, in New York City, there's been opportunities with an actual payer. I'm not sure which one because I'm not in that market. But like an actual third party insurance company that's been partnering with the network. And so there's been a lot of, and there's been opportunities with community health workers and social needs screenings through our networks as well. And it seems like it's never ending. Like every time we turn around, there's another opportunity that we can go after. I think I think that if there was more, I guess, well, I'm not, never mind. Like, I don't even know where I was going that line of thought. Like, there's just so much. Like, at a certain point, we're like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
well, like, maybe we need to slow down for our own sanity. But I don't think that anyone really is like that in the network. We're all like trying to go after and get every opportunity we can.
Yeah, yeah, no, you guys have had definitely a very active CPESN team with, was it Roger Paginelli up there? And
Yeah,
you guys have some rock
Roger
stars up
is,
there. Yeah.
yeah. We have Roger, John Croce. There's like a ton of great people in our network that are really dedicated to the profession.
Yeah, so I love that. If you guys aren't taking advantage of your local CPESN network, um, I would definitely recommend all of our pharmacies participate in that. Everybody that I talk to who has just great things to say about it. So normally don't plug outside, really any companies on here, but that's an organization that I think's really been great for most of our pharmacies. And if you're not finding success, then be more active. so. So, what else is going on? I saw some recent postings on your social media talking about the National Diabetes Prevention. So, you guys are pretty active with that. What else is going on in the pharmacy?
So you're right. We just launched the National Diabetes Prevention Program curriculum. It's a year-long program. We've been doing classes like once a week or so. That's part of our grant work through CPESN. We're kind of trying to find our footing with that. It's been going great. We have a great group of people in this first cohort of ours. And then we're looking to launch cohorts 2 and 3 sometime next year. We've seen a lot of I guess in New York State, like changes to our scope of practice. So we've been able to, in the past year, we've gotten the authority to administer the long-acting injectables, which is, I think we're a little behind on that. Lots of other states allow that already. And then we also got the authority to, I don't think it's called prescribe, but we have the authority to I don't know what other word to call it other than prescribe. Help women
Sure.
obtain self-administered hormonal contraceptives. So like there's a questionnaire that women will be able to fill out, and then they can get like the birth control that they've previously been on, or pharmacists can help counsel them on the birth control that would probably best fit them. And then, so that's something that we've been able to start doing in the past year as well.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Can New York also like test and treat?
There is like
So
point of
like a
care testing,
Tamiflu
and
or yeah.
pharmacists are allowed to be their own lab directors. We don't have the authority to test and treat though. So, like if I used to do that here. The demand really died down after home COVID tests became available. But I was doing like strep, and like I know the 1 or 2 times I had a person test positive for strep. I would just send the results to their primary, and their primary would send in a script. Actually, the one time I had a patient that tested positive, they weren't a patient of mine. They just came to get their strep test, and the patient ended up getting their antibiotic at their home pharmacy, and I was kind of like, that's fine. I would rather just have the money from your point of care test.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Those yeah, definitely not going to fight over the low reimbursement.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I thought was really interesting is I found your social media, and I was looking at some of the Lincoln Pharmacy stuff, and then I saw some posts that actually tagged the U.S. senators and your representatives in your area, which I thought was really fun. What a great way to deliver some information organically.
Yeah, I do sometimes turn to Facebook as an outlet, like just because I'm so frustrated with what's going on, and also because I think the larger community has no idea what's actually going on, and we can have conversations with all of our electeds until we're blue in the face, but until more people in our community at large realizes what's going on and how it impacts or what threat exists to the way they access pharmacy, nothing's going to change. It's not like you and I can call our senators every single day, 25 times a day, and they're not going to care until their grandmothers start calling or their neighbors start calling. And so we need strength in numbers, and it's not just pharmacists, it's our community members as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I really think all of our politicians are doing what they think is best with the information that they have. And they're probably, constantly being delivered information from every industry that you interact with on a daily basis. So it's got to be so much information to try to consume. But you're right, when it comes from the voters, when it comes from a firsthand family member, then it's not just data. That it's information that I think hits a little bit differently. So if you're a pharmacy that is experiencing some of these issues, because I think from the outside, if you're not experiencing these issues, you may see, oh, DIR fees are over. Everything's fixed now. So that's not necessarily the case.
I feel like
right?
If someone says that to you, Will, they're lying or they're incredibly greedy because they should be telling everyone else what they're doing.
Well, yeah, but when you see that DIR fees are not so much of the issue now, the issue is it's kind of shifted, it's kind of changed. Does everybody understand what that looks like behind the counter? I would bet not.
Yeah, I think that we have to stop as a pharmacy community. We have to stop hiding behind excuses. Like if you're not carrying something because you've lost $1,000 filling that drug in the last year, well then put that out there. Tell people I am no longer carrying this because it is not financially feasible for me to do so. Everywhere we constantly and I see this so much, pharmacists and other pharmacy owners who say they hide behind this cloak of unavailability, when all they really want to do is not fill it because they want to go home with the shirt on their back at the end of the day. And that's not greedy. It's not unprofessional. So don't say it's not available. Say I'm no longer carrying this because not just your insurance company, no insurance company pays me enough for it. And that's not the way I can continue to do business. I think if people hear that enough times, then people are going to be like, well, my pharmacy is not carrying it because the insurance is forcing them not to. Oh, look, it's got a thumbs up sign. My insurance company is forcing them to accept a reimbursement that's not fair. And then the conversation is gonna go from there. You've got to start showing people the impact of this situation, this precarious predicament we're in order for things to move forward.
Yeah, I was talking with the pharmacy at NCPA recently, and he was telling me that same story where it's getting to where their customers are thinking, man, this pharmacy can't keep anything in stock. And, that's really not a good look either. That's not any better than having those hard conversations, which ultimately, I think you're right, kind of lead to a better understanding of what's happening and ultimately, hopefully some change.
Yeah, and it's a lot of the same thing. We also often get customers who are who come to us because they can't get their Adderall at the pharmacy that they usually go to. And I tell them the same thing. I'm like, I would love to fill your prescription, but here's where I'm at. My wholesalers will cut off all of my controls for all of my patients if I go over a certain quota. And I am kind of close to that quota to begin with. And while I want to serve you and I want you to get the medication you need, I also can't risk the rest of my patients' access to their medications. So stick with your pharmacy and hopefully you'll get somewhere. And it sucks, but it's also like, I mean, just telling them we can't get it and then like making them go to 100 different pharmacies, like, and then like they start, because like every pharmacy, when you go into a pharmacy and you're looking for a control, it's like everyone kind of wants to brush them off and they get this feeling that they're like, that like maybe people think that they're an addict or something like that, when all it is people are just sick and tired of these rules that they can't really say out loud. And I just be direct.
Yeah, because it's already, a medical condition that maybe you already have a little bit of a stigma about, and now there's this weird perceived social stigma when you're, trying to go get your medication. It's a whole nother layer that I think we just didn't really think about a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So you're finding some success in other areas, working with CPESN, working on the diabetes prevention program. What else has you excited? What are you looking forward to starting, or are you currently doing that's making you excited to go into the office?
I think really it's the clinical services, like the injection program and the grant work and the grant money that I've gotten from the county to work on that. That's something that I like. I'm always like, oh yeah, I've got that. Like I've got that pot of cash and I can do, like, because the county, like, part of my proposal also talked about interfacing with other communities, trying to bring good workflow into the pharmacy. So like the proposal is really built so that eventually I can create this guide to help other pharmacies. And like, that's something that I enjoy doing. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I get to do that. Like I get to gather information for this guide. So like, that's something that I'm also kind of looking forward to as well.
Nice. So not only were you able to carve out a little bit of opportunity for your own store, but it sounds like in the process, you're just laying that groundwork for other pharmacies as well. And that's really cool.
And I think that's also like something that lots of grant opportunities will provide for, is like laying the foundation to make the innovation that you're proposing more sustainable. You just have to ask for it. So if you build it into your proposal, eventually, not eventually, like it's not that they won't say no. You just like, you have to ask before you decide before they decide whether or not it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with grants. They have money set aside for solutions. So if you're able to offer that creative solution, it really is the perfect win-win opportunity. So what do you have? Do you have something that you've been, thinking about, something you're wondering if it would work, or your next grant proposal in mind? Or if in a perfect world, you got an automatic yes on an unrealistic grant proposal, what do you what makes you excited?
I've been like intrigued by the Avant Institute and all of the work that they do in North Carolina with like going into providers' offices and billing as a part, like those incident to services. And so like that's something that's kind of always in the back of my head. Occasionally, like I'll be, in a social situation with a local provider and I'll be like, hey, what do you think about this? And kind of just like test it to see what they think. And like nothing's really stuck yet. And I also haven't really like fully formed any like cohesive business plan. But it's just like, it's one of those ideal opportunities that I'd love to be able to put pharmacists into clinics and bill for those services. And I mean, I know, like, for example, our local college of pharmacy, they have pharmacists working out in the field in ambulatory care settings. And I've always wondered, like, are they billing for those services? Like, how are they pitching that? Does the college get any revenue, like, from putting their pharmacists in there? But I just, like, it's one of those questions that I've always had and that I've always wanted to ask, but I haven't actually had the opportunity to explore. But I think that's kind of like the uncharted territory in New York. We have, we see these awesome models in other states, and oftentimes New York is behind everyone. I think we were like the 49th state in the country to like allow pharmacists to immunize. And so like we're so behind in lots of aspects of pharmacy practice. And so it's something that's like, it's like the last frontier, the next frontier maybe in pharmacy or for pharmacists.
Yeah, that's an exciting opportunity, but it's a big one just because of the staffing needs, and it's hard to be in multiple places at once. But I know Amina and her team down there at the Avant Institute have some really great ideas on how to make that work logistically. So It sounds like you've already got the right people in mind.
Yeah, no, I've been talking
that.
with them. I just I have to find the right opportunity and then pounce on it.
That's right. So one of the quotes that I found from you, I wanted to kind of close out with that because I thought it was just so relatable. But she said, "I don't do things because I have to. I do things because I care." Mm-hmm. And I thought that just resonates with so many of our pharmacies. But again, that seems like it's at the heart of all of these enhanced services and all of these things that you're doing outside of the traditional pharmacy model. So for anybody who is going in today and they're kind of looking at another day of fill and bill, what advice do you have?
Stop chasing opportunities that are limited. So like if you're going into your software today and you're looking for a new NDC of high AWP alcohol wipes, put the box down, get the alcohol wipes that are cheapest, bill your insurance, use that time to find an opportunity in your community that's going to bring you sustainable long-term revenue, help transform your practice. Because these like goose eggs that we find when we find these like high reimbursable NDCs, that's not going to be around forever. And if you want your business to be sustainable in the long run, you've got to transform.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the limited staff, if you are running lean, make sure your time is spent really looking for those big opportunities. I like that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to let you get back to your busy day and look forward to see all the changes you guys continue to roll out and see what CPESN and New York has coming for 2025.
Yeah, me too. Alrighty. It was great talking with you, Will.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond the Scripts, presented by the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please support our channel by liking, subscribing, and clicking the notification bell so that you'll be notified anytime we post new content. To stay up to date with all of the latest independent pharmacy news and content, follow Pioneer RX on your preferred social media platform.